This week's guest got started in business, scaling an 8-figure loungewear division at his family business. But when that wasn't enough, he set out to help other business owners scale their brands on Amazon into multi-million-dollar ventures. Sam Haddad, co-founder and CEO of Greenhaus, is bringing a product-first, made-in-USA approach to e-commerce brand acquisitions, shaking up the game that's been traditionally dominated by Amazon aggregators.
It's categories that we're passionate about, it's categories that we want to be in, it's categories that work, specifically from an Amazon standpoint.
In today's episode, we'll unpack how Greenhaus evaluates brands, the operational strategies driving the growth once they've been acquired, and what makes their acquisition process so founder-friendly.
On multiple occasions, we were not the highest offer, but it's the story that we tell, and the story is authentic.
Plus, Sam shares how Greenhaus takes brands from Amazon-only players to Omni-Channel powerhouses with retail, D2C, and even TikTok shop strategies. Don't miss this one.
A billion, who needs to call themselves a billionaire, right? We'll try and accomplish everything that we can and enjoy what we can as well. Gotta have fun.
Before we get into the kind of Greenhaus specific stuff, I know you've got quite a varied background. Do you mind just, kind of running me through that and how you ended up building Greenhaus and kind of arriving at the point you are today?
Sure. So I was actually born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I spent, 12 years going to a Jewish school, and then went to NYU for undergrad. Actually, weirdly enough, majored in sports business, which was like a typical business classes with a sports theme. I learned the basics of everything, which in my opinion was great for what came after that. Basically, I spent 8 years working for a family company that manufactures both soft goods and hard goods, men's, ladies, and kids sportswear, activewear, underwear, loungewear, socks, accessories, luggage, backpacks, you name it. We made it, and I was involved in every single aspect of the business. So whether it was finance or operations or production, supply chain, sales, design, product development, I really learned what it takes to not only create products, but turn them into successful ones as well. And like I've always said, there's a very big distinction between those two. I had two primary roles at the company. So I personally started a new division at the company in the men's underwear and loungewear categories. 8-figure, turn that business into an 8-figure business, millions of units of product to multiple channels, including brick and mortar retailers around the USA, direct to consumer, online marketplaces such as Amazon and Walmart.com. And then my other responsibility at the company was managing the Amazon business for the company as a whole. And I got experience selling directly to Amazon as a 1P vendor, and then eventually transitioning that business to a third-party FBA strategy. So definitely, I would say, got my product merchandising experience there, and I've really used that to carry it forward.
Okay. Just kind of picking up on the digital side of that, so the kind of Amazon and online piece. Did you have any kind of formal training in this, or was it just kind of learning on the job almost?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Working at a family company, you have the certain people guiding you, and you learn from them day in and day out. But starting a new division from scratch, you have to learn the products, you have to learn the people involved, you have to go source it, in different countries and different types of factories. So I would say that it's utilizing a base that's there, having that expertise help you in a better way when you're introducing a new category or multiple new categories.
For sure. And in terms of timing, was this when Amazon was already huge, or were you kind of, growing with Amazon and kind of pushing into that new space?
So the division was started back in, I believe, 2014. Amazon at that time, they did have that, I believe they did have FBA back then. But in the world that I was from, it was always better to sell, or more advantageous and more known to sell to Amazon directly. Amazon's 1P business back then was way bigger than its third-party FBA business was. So, the goal was to sell as many case packs as possible, not understanding that customers from the direct-to-consumer side or the e-commerce side, they buy individually, not necessarily case packs. When you're working with brick-and-mortar retailers, they buy by the case pack, right? And when you're working with an e-commerce retailer such as Amazon, they merchandise differently, they also plan differently, they allocate differently, and so selling a case pack to a retailer accomplishes one thing, but it may not accomplish the same thing for an e-commerce retailer. The Opposite side of that is selling to individual units, and obviously over the course of time, as we transition to a third-party FBA strategy, that proved to be more efficient.
What were the other kind of big differences between kind of the eCom side and the more traditional retail?
Well, just looking at the wholesale retail business as a whole, you're working with buyers who come in, look at your product, you have to establish a relationship with them. The product has to sell, business has to be good in those retail stores for them to come back and buy. So it's a lot of working with the buyer directly as opposed to working with your end consumer and knowing who your end consumer is and having that data. Whereas on the e-commerce side, you are in control of your business. You could change the price, you could change the product, you can understand who that customer is, you can look at the data, you can look at the purchasing behavior. And I think to me personally, that's what got me excited, right? It was having the control and knowing what I can do to make change in order to grow the business. Whereas, if you're working with a buyer from a retail store, there's only so much you can do to sway their opinion. But as I guess we'll dive into later on in the podcast, I do believe in an omni-channel strategy.
Can we kind of fast forward there? If you've kind of built out this division in the business, how do we end up to kind of today and the Greenhaus brand and businesses there?
Sure. Fast forward to September of 2020, it was right after the first wave of COVID. And I just said to myself, it was time to take on the next challenge of my life. If not now, then never. I had to think deep, figure out what I wanted to do. And I said to myself, you know what? I think it's the most beneficial if I use all the knowledge that I've gained from the previous 8 years working at the family company. I have the product experience, I have the operational experience, I have the Amazon experience. What can I do with that, right? And it was really during the time that these Amazon aggregators were popping up, literally by the day. Everybody was raising tons and tons and tons of money, billions of dollars. And I thought to myself, I can do this.
Okay. And I know when we spoke previously that, there's a big emphasis at Greenhaus of, your expertise being in the product and the ops rather than kind of, I think these aggregators where it's more kind of M&A, right? And a more finance kind of background.
Right.
Why is that important for you? And why is that the focus?
This can be a podcast in and of itself, but in my opinion, a P&L and a balance sheet can tell you a lot about a business. But you need to understand what's leading to those numbers. And numbers on a paper doesn't mean anything. I mean, it does mean something, but again, you need to understand how a company got there. So dig deeper. What are the brands? What are the products? Who are the customers? What do these brands and products mean to its customers? What's the white space in that specific category? I mean, the list can go on and on. So in my opinion, you need to approach these types of businesses from a product first perspective, right? You need to live the customer journey rather than just relying on a paper with numbers on it. So, from our perspective, from my perspective, I was a merchandiser at heart. I understood product. I understood packaging. I understood how to identify the white space on a shelf or on an Amazon page, knowing what needed to be changed on a product detail page, as opposed to looking at a P&L that was sent, an Amazon business P&L that was sent that really it told one story, but it may not have told the full story. From an operations standpoint, if you can't get the product from point A to point B, you definitely can't get it from point B to point C, and point C is where the end consumer is, right? So if you don't have smooth operations, you're basically out of business. And I think from where, again, the experience that we had, having the product experience, having the operational experience, maybe not necessarily having the M&A experience at that point, it was much easier to look at a company's P&L knowing what the products were, how they meant to consumers, and how to run that business eventually after we acquired it.
Okay. Did you just kind of right off the bat kind of lean into these traditional strengths that you had, or did you kind of try maybe going the other route and plugging the M&A gap in terms of knowledge?
You know what? I think I had to dig even deeper, right? Because day by day, the competition increased, and it only got that much harder, right? Instead of there being 4 or 5 different acquirers at any given time, there were literally 100, right, overnight. So you needed to stand out. You needed that point of differentiation. And for us, having that experience for as I was working at the family company and having that Amazon experience, you basically learned what it took to run a successful Amazon business, right? Learning which product categories work depending on profitability, depending on the weight of the product, depending on returns. So there was that aspect, right? And then just understanding the Amazon flywheel and knowing, what are the advantages? What's going to lead to the best outcome? And again, after digging deep, it was a concept that came to my mind that I said, oh, maybe there's really an opportunity here to focus on that's going to alleviate a lot of our fears with Amazon and lead to a lot of growth. And that concept is where, with Greenhaus, we only acquire brands and manufacture products in the USA. For many reasons, we can get into them, but that really allowed us to differentiate, made us focus, right? Because when it comes to M&A, you can get literally 100 deals across your desk in a month, right? And if you don't have that focus, it's very, very difficult to scale, in my opinion.
So you just kind of touched on it there, the kind of criteria and strategy that you had, one of them being, the key one, I think, being made in USA products. Can you just talk to the kind of other criteria that you have when looking at an acquisition? And I guess aside from focus, why you made the choice to kind of filter through that lens?
Sure. So in addition to the made in the USA criteria, I believe in quality over quantity. Right? Brands will, if not run the right way, won't last forever, right? And it's the quality of the brand that's going to dictate how long it exists in the marketplace. So quality over quantity is a very, very important piece to identifying, or it's a very important, another criteria to our company. In addition, we look for a short-term and a long-term vision when looking at a brand or looking at a company, right? Short-term is year one. How do we optimize the current business? Whether it's on Amazon, most of the time it does start on Amazon, using the existing infrastructure, right? That could take place in the first 6 weeks, it could take place in the first 3 months, it could take as long as a year, but we always want to be able to see the short-term vision. How can we grow there, right? The long-term vision is where we get creative, right? Are there opportunities beyond the existing channels? Whether it be direct to consumer, whether it be brick and mortar. How do we turn the brands that we're acquiring into nationally recognized brand names? To me, that's where it's taking the next step, right? That's where the passion is. That's where we get excited. We're not buying brands that sell product on Amazon just to keep it on Amazon. In my opinion, it's not a smart strategy. We want to acquire brands that mean something to customers, that have established place in their respective categories, that we can turn into nationally recognized brand names, and that's what gets us excited.
Okay. I want to touch on that Omni-Channel and kind of building out the different channel in a second, but I think the other thing I just want to touch on before we get there is this kind of USA focus. So yeah, I get that it's kind of a good filtering mechanism, and I'm sure, quality's higher and kind of these kind of variables, but are there other reasons why you decided to choose kind of made in USA? Because I'm pretty sure that, restricts the pool of acquisition.
Yes, tremendously, drastically.
Yeah.
So, short, the main reason is because with Amazon, our number one rule is always stay in stock, always have inventory, make sure that on Amazon you have the Prime badge and that the in-stock rate is always where it needs to be, right? Because number one, if you're not in stock, you're not selling, you're not making money. But also when you go out of stock, your rank drops on Amazon and it's not that easy to recover, right? So going back to the family business and running the underwear, the men's underwear and loungewear division, I used to sell, and this is when we transitioned to a third-party FBA strategy, I used to bring in product from India. The lead times used to be anywhere from 3 to 6 months, mostly 6 months, right? We would go out of stock, we would sell out, we would invest money into advertising, we would get back to where we were, we would sell out again, all that ad spend would go to waste, and it just was very hard to maintain the flywheel. At the end of the day, this all comes down to lead times. Currently, with Greenhaus and the brands that we have in our portfolio, I have lead times anywhere from 5 to 7 days all the way to, let's just say, 10 to 12 weeks at most. So faster lead times equals to higher in-stock rates. It's a fast and frictionless supply chain. We don't have to worry about importing. We don't have to worry about tariffs and duties and all that stuff. It's literally going from a manufacturer that's down the road from a 3PL, getting the product out to Amazon and taking care of it that way. And I like to also mention that over the course of our time in building Greenhaus, we've been able to establish a network of manufacturers, right? So sometimes when we look at a brand or a company to buy, we know who the manufacturers are. We know that we can take it from manufacturer 1 to manufacturer 2 if we needed to. And it's that network of manufacturers that allows us to have a step ahead and an advantage when looking at certain companies.
Is there also a second order consequence of doing this kind of taking this made in USA approach of, by focusing on that, you then focus on a certain sector and maybe you're less kind of focused on kind of widget products from China? Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't find electronics being made here. You don't find many categories being made here. It's just the nature of the business, at least for now. Right? So having this criteria, we definitely see opportunities come our way in the same categories over and over again, but it's categories that we're passionate about, it's categories that we want to be in, it's categories that work, specifically from an Amazon standpoint, and it's categories that we've been able to disrupt, which has been very important.
Okay, so you've got your kind of, initial filtering done, based on these criteria. What's next? Like, what are you doing when there's, opportunities coming across your desk? How are you saying, this is a good business, this is a bad business? Like, what kind of characteristics are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, after taking into account our most important criteria and our other criteria as well, we want to own a leading and known brand in a specific category or subcategory. There needs to be something unique, something proprietary about the brand and the product. And as I said before, the brand and the product needs to be able to live in multiple channels. We can't just rely on Amazon. We can't just rely on retail stores, right? The world is changing so fast that the product and the brands need to be relevant in other places, whether it's direct to consumer, whether it's TikTok Shop. We need to see those additional opportunities in the future in order to be able to invest in that brand.
Okay. And are there any kind of red flags on the other end that put you off?
Yeah, I mean, simply said, it's the Me Too products where anybody can slap a brand or a label on the product. Those days are simply over. I never believed in it. I don't believe in it now. And I think that if you want longevity and you're going to invest in a company and own it and live it and breathe it, you want to make sure that you have something special.
And then in terms of the acquisition process, I know you guys are pretty unique. Can you just talk through us at a super high level why that is and the approach that you take?
Well, we try and make it as simple as possible. Going through an acquisition is not an easy process. Time consuming, it's daunting, it can be exhausting at times, but at the end of the day, we're very straightforward, we're very honest, and we say it how it is, and we don't hide anything. So we review your company. If we like your company, we send you an offer, and if agreed, we proceed to an LOI, we do due diligence, and then we close. Now, obviously, I'm making it sound faster and more simple than it is, but what we like to do is really hold the seller's hands throughout the process and make sure that they have the resources that they need to get through the acquisition. It needs to work for both sides. It can't just work for one side. So if it can work for the seller and it can work for the buyer, which is us, and we could at the end of the day give each other a hug and shake hands at the end of the deal virtually these days, it definitely helps.
And is there a maybe kind of rough timeline or process? Like, are you guys taking minority, majority stake? Like, what does a deal look like?
For the most part, we do acquire and purchase 100% of the companies that we acquire. At this point in time, that could change. But what I will say is, and how we differentiate between us and some of the other aggregators or brand acquirers or whatever you want to call them, is that we own 100% of our company, right? It's our own blood, sweat, and tears. We're a small team. We have the product experience. We have the operational experience. We know what to do when we acquire these brands. And just like these brands are basically the babies, right? Act like babies to the original owners and the original founders. Literally, the day that we take over, they become our babies. That's how invested we are in the brand. It's our, as I said, it's our own blood, sweat, and tears, right? Failure is not an option.
Is that attractive to founders? Because I've heard the horror stories. I've spoke to founders that have maybe sold to more traditional PE, and they just kind of gut the business. The soul is taken, and there's kind of nothing there in a few years. And do they like your kind of approach?
Definitely. I will say that on multiple occasions we were not the highest offer, but it's the story that we tell. And the story is authentic, right? It's not based off of any lies, as I said before. It's based off of living proof. And we've been through this. We've been through the game. You know, myself, I've been in the consumer products business for over 15 years. My brother, who's the COO of the company, also has been in this business for over 12 years. So, are there challenges? 100% every day. New ones arise because the world is changing. When you lean back on it, it always helps to have a lot of years under your belt.
Can we talk now post-acquisition? So, you've come in, you've taken control of the business from a kind of growth and strategic standpoint. What do you guys do next? What happens after you've acquired the business?
So we'll talk about the short term, right? Because that's what happens immediately after acquiring these companies. But we're very involved from day one, top to bottom. We'll have multiple brainstorming sessions of what we need to do, what we would like to do. Maybe there's going to be some great ideas, some bad ideas, but at the end of the day, there's a laundry list of things that we need to accomplish. Whether it's revamping PPC campaigns, creating a new photo gallery, creating new A+ content. I'm speaking specifically for Amazon right now. Creating a new storefront, new packaging, rebranding, new logo, new look, new feel, right? New size variations, website optimization. All these things can be done within 6 to 12 months. And I would say right off the bat, you can experience anywhere between 10, 25, maybe even 50% of an increase just by doing that. Obviously, 50% is in the more extreme cases. Perception is reality, right? We want to make sure that when we put our products in front of our customers, that they look the best. And so, it's definitely on the high priority list.
Beyond Amazon, and you spoke before about kind of believing in this omni-channel approach. What do you do there? So I get day one you're coming in, you're trying to squeeze more juice out of the Amazon piece. How do you scale beyond that and go omni-channel?
So I'll start off by saying that first, it takes like 6 to 12 months to fully dive deep into the brands that we're acquiring. We learn everything about it. We basically become the customer, right? We can't grow without having that foundation and that base, right? So those first 6 to 12 months, it's just diving deep, knowing everything from every which way, right? Once we fully understand the brand and the products that make up the brand and the assortment, we then say to ourselves, what complementary products can we launch? What new categories do we want to get into? What new channels can we open up? For us, to date, successfully, we've been able to expand into brick and mortar mass retailers. We've been able to launch direct-to-consumer websites. I'm working on TikTok Shop now, as long as that stays. You have to look at it from every which way, but you can't rush into making too many changes because there needs to be a foundation.
Okay. So just to clarify, it's kind of like the first kind of year is a research, stabilization, and kind of growth phase, but mainly with the existing kind of platform required. Okay. And then beyond that, is it product development and kind of other channels? Is that the plan from kind of year 2 onwards?
Yes.
Okay. And is there maybe a standard playbook? I don't know if you have one, or is it completely custom based on the brand and the kind of audience and stuff?
It is custom, and the reason why is because every brand and every category is different. There's different opportunities everywhere, and I don't think that if TikTok Shop works for one brand, it may not work for another brand. And if there's an opportunity with a mass retailer for one brand, there may not be an opportunity in the other category for the other brand. So it is very specific. We do like to pick and choose where we think we have the most opportunity instead of throwing everything at the wall. We've been able to see a pretty healthy growth over the course of the past 4 to 5 years.
Okay. And when you're kind of looking at that, let's say year 2 onward strategy, Are you testing some of this stuff, or are you like 100% certain that, we're doing this new channel, it's going to work, and we just go kind of full steam at it?
It depends what the channel is, but it varies. I do think that there's a fine line of testing something, but when you don't give it enough of a budget, it can actually not give you the results that are accurate. So I don't know if we go full steam, but we're not testing something without giving it the appropriate budget.
And I just want to talk about kind of how you do that. So obviously I run an agency. A lot of people don't love working with agencies and they want that kind of expertise or knowledge in-house. When you're looking at, let's say, maybe a TikTok shop or a, D2C kind of approach, or, getting into retail, are you thinking, we have to have this expertise in-house and you have that and you build a team? Or are you thinking, who can we work with on maybe an agency kind of side?
So I'll start answering that question by saying I just read a book. It's called Who Not How. And basically the core message of the book is basically to find the who's who can do the things that you shouldn't be doing, right? Naturally, we grow up with asking ourselves, how can I do this, right? How can I do everything? And that doesn't allow for maximum efficiency. So what we need to, and what the book is saying, is to find the who's in order to take care of the things that you shouldn't be taking care of. So first and foremost, I'll acknowledge that we look for the who's. Now, as you said, the who's can be an agency or it can be in-house. It really depends on the position and the area that we're looking to hire or we're looking to find that person for. Give you an example, email marketing, we defined our who, right? And it ended up being an agency, which is you. So it really does vary. And I wouldn't say there's a certain playbook that we've implemented across the board in terms of whether it's an agency or in-house. But as I said, looking forward to working with you.
No, I'm looking forward to it too. I think my next question then is, you've kind of implemented these strategies and, you've seen growth. What's next? And I mean, long term, is this buy and hold forever? Is this buy and hold long term? Is this exit after 3 to 5 years? What does the end look like?
So I think time will tell, but it's very difficult to acquire brands across many different categories, right? As I said, when we acquire a brand, it's 6 to 12 months of deep diving. The categories that we're in, they're not straightforward categories. So our goal is to acquire and hold long term. However, our strategy has really shifted over the past, call 1 to 2 years, where as we continue to acquire and hold long term, we want to acquire additional brands strategically in the categories that we're already in. So whether it's acquiring a competitor of a certain brand or acquiring a complementary brand to the category or to the brand that we currently own, there needs to be some sort of strategic approach based off of what we've already built. And I think we've put together a portfolio that is 100% primed to take advantage of that strategy.
So you mentioned there kind of the platform plugins, right? Or looking for other acquisitions. Are you always on the lookout for other acquisitions, or is it, certain periods where you'll focus on acquisitions and then you'll focus on kind of growing the brands?
So, I'm always looking for acquisitions because you can't take your foot off the pedal, right? If I see that a competitor was scooped up by another company, I'd be pretty frustrated. So I want to make sure that all the opportunities are coming my way. But here's the thing, right? When opportunities come my way, I can tell within 10 minutes whether or not it's something we want to proceed with, right? So we're very quick to make decisions if we're interested. Most of the time, we're not interested. There are times where we are interested and we need to act as quickly as we can. So we're definitely always looking for acquisitions, but they just need to be the right fit.
Okay. And have there been any that might have been the wrong fit or, challenging?
So I wouldn't say there haven't been the wrong fit. There was one acquisition that was just too small. Over the course of time, the business was too small, and we decided to exit that brand for a profit. Again, at the end of the day, we want to be as efficient as possible, right? We want to be as effective as possible. We want to make sure that we're spending our time on the right things, right? What we're learning over the past 4 to 5 years is that it's easier to do more with less, right? So buying bigger companies and less of them and more strategic than buying or trying to create a portfolio of 75 to 100 brands that have nothing to do with each other.
Is that because of the kind of synergy that you can build between them, or why?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. I think my next question is in terms of, you see a lot of brands, right? So a lot of founder-led businesses that have been built with kind of blood, sweat, and tears. What are the common things that people are doing wrong in the kind of unprofessional founder world where people have started maybe a passion project or they've got into something? What are tips that you'd give them or things that you're seeing that they're kind of missing out on?
So first and foremost, if you're a founder, I give you a lot of credit. It is not easy. It's painful, but again, you hope that the reward is worth it. It's exhausting, but at the end of the day, there's a certain passion and a fire that we love that keeps us going. So I do think for founders, number one, you have to acknowledge the small successes along the way. It's very easy to get caught up. It's very, very easy to just see the negative side of things and not look at the positive, right? So take a step back, acknowledge the successes along the way, and don't be dragged down by all the challenges. I think if there's a theme that I see across many founders, I would say specifically in the product world, is that they are fantastic and geniuses when it comes to product development, right? They know how to perfect that part. I do think when it comes to the business and marketing side of things, that's where they can take the next step, whether it's seeking advice from a role model or a mentor, or doing additional work or taking a class or whatever it may be. I think our biggest advantage is coming in and taking over that side of things, and that's primarily, in my opinion, the reason why we've experienced that growth. But again, that's not a knock, that's just room for improvement. So that would be my advice, right? You've developed an amazing product. It's not the only piece to the puzzle, right? There's all additional steps that can be taken into account and taken advantage of in order to experience the growth before you even sell.
And for you personally, kind of with Greenhaus, what gets you out of bed each day? Like, what do you find rewarding about building a business?
So it's always fun to accept the challenge and then succeed, I would say, for everybody, right? For us, the challenges never stop. When we overcome or succeed on one of the challenges, we celebrate quickly and then we move on to the next. But I will tell you, with a lot of the brands that we've acquired, they've actually become our hobbies, right? We've taken them on. We personally invested in the brands, in the categories, in the hobbies that are now under our belt. It's become a part of our lives, literally. That's the fun part, right? You have to enjoy what you do. And going back, if I was selling men's underwear and loungewear, yes, it's an 8-figure business. That's great, but it's not who I was, right? Greenhaus has become who I am in a positive way. It's really shaped the past, call it 4 to 5 years of my life. It continues, and it does bring me joy each and every day.
Okay. And because they're hobbies, does it feel less like work and more like fun when you're kind of...
It always feels like work, but at the end of the day, when the week comes to a close, you can just rest and say that what I'm doing, number one, I'm enjoying. Number one, it'll be worth it over the course of time. And number 3, I'm proud, right? Yeah. And I think that matters a lot.
Okay. I want to just kind of go back, rewind a second, because you said something that was interesting there. And I just had a call with a client of ours, and they were talking, as of recording this, it's the middle of December. They had a record kind of Black Friday, a great November, and they just felt like it was kind of done, and then what's next? And they didn't like that because they were like, it's a huge achievement. I want to kind of bask in the glory almost. How do you stay kind of centered on your goals, like longer term, and still feel kind of proud of the accomplishments kind of day to day, and not just kind of keep marching towards like ever moving goalposts?
I mean, it's a loaded question. I think you really have to understand who you are, what you want to be, what you want to strive for, not only in business but personally as well. For us, when you have loyal customers that come back and buy your products over and over and over again, right? They're counting on you, right? They use your products day in and day out. You're a piece of their lives, right? And that's where they get their enjoyment, at least in the categories, where we're in. So it's been fun. You come to learn the people in those respective industries. You get to know who they are, you get to know their families, you get to know their kids, you get to just embrace everything that it's about. It goes beyond, as I said in the beginning, dollars and cents. It goes beyond the numbers. It goes beyond the products. It literally becomes what you're about and what your missions are and what you think is the most important. So again, I think that's the core value of Greenhaus and who we are, what we're trying to do, and who we want to become in the future.
And in terms of what this guy was saying, in terms of like you keep chasing this pot of gold almost that keeps moving, is that just the nature of the beast in the sense that, you know, you want to grow the business, so this is just how it is?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I always joke with my brother saying that I want to do $999 million in revenue, but not reach the $1 billion mark because, $1 billion, who needs to call themselves a billionaire, right? It's at the end of the day, it's not that important. So yes, are we trying to grow our business as much as possible? Yes. But at the same time, there's other things that are important as well. You know, we'll try and accomplish everything that we can and enjoy what we can as well. You gotta have fun.
I like the answer. What's next for you guys then at Greenhaus? Like, is that the goal? Is it, $1 billion?
999 million.
Okay.
The sky's the limit. We'll see where we takes us. We are obviously in the market looking to grow every single day and acquire additional brands and see where that takes us.
Okay. I like that answer again. I think that, yeah, it's a good balance. But Sam, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights today. It's been, great having you on. If people are interested in kind of catching up with you, or maybe they've got a brand that you guys might be interested in, where can they find you and kind of what type of businesses should reach out?
Sure. You can reach out to my email, sam@greenhaus.io. Greenhaus is spelled Greenhaus. I'll look at everything. At the same time, we do have a certain criteria, and we will do everything we can to stay focused. But again, it's not only about looking. Don't only reach out if you have a company. Reach out if you need advice. Reach out if you want to have a conversation. I'm all about meeting people, expanding the network, and learning. I don't know. There's 100%. A lot of people. Most people know more than I do, right? So I just want to learn from people.
Sounds good. Okay, Sam, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for coming on, and speak to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate it.